Hey y'all, it's Jessica from Sloppy Swatches. Today I have a look at the Firefly collection that's available right now from SuperChic Lacquer. These polishes were sent to me for review, and I do have an affiliate code if you're interested in making any purchases. You can save 10% off using my coupon code SLOPPY10. I'll leave that down in the description box if you're interested as well. This is a collection of 7 jelly polishes that are full with iridescent glitters. I did use these today as a topper over a white base. That's really my preferred way to use them. Here's a quick look at all of those bottles. They also do glow in the dark. The one that glowed the brightest for me is Zenon, which is the white. I got the best glow out of that one. So in my package, I was also sent the My Chemistry pH regulator. You use this to prep your nails before adding any base coat to make it more long wearing and lasting. It removes the oils off your natural nail. I was also sent the G-Force X Burnish Base Coat. I have used this to try to burnish hollow powder on it. It didn't work extremely well for me, but I will be testing it out again. I'll let you know as soon as I can. So first up is Zenon. She's described as an intense multicolored rainbow iridescent with scattered holographic microglitter effects in a super squishy clear jelly glow base. So this one I'm going to show you how it swatches over white as well. If you'd like, a lot of the other swatchers have done it on its own. There was a lot of visible nail line left, which is not really my gig, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would personally wear these polishes. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Zenon swatched for me over a white base. So even with that first stroke there, you can see a ton of those unicorn colored iridescent glitters already on the nail. I think one coat is perfect as a topper. You could really use this over anything you wanted to. It just adds a nice subtle, almost opalescent gleam. I am going to go ahead and show you how it built up for me with the second coat. I feel like that second coat does kind of amp up the glow effect if you're more interested in that. And of course does add more of those beautiful glitters. So 2 coats makes for much better coverage. Here's a quick look at that completed mani with a glossy top coat in direct sunlight at an angle, and you can see how they all shimmer and shine in that direct sunlight. This is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. So next up is Starlet, and she's described as an intense multicolored rainbow iridescent with scattered holographic microglitter effects in a super squishy cherry red jelly glow base. So this one is a much more colored base. It does look like it will reach full opacity on its own. Again, I'm going to show you how it swatches over a white base today. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Starlet swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first coat. With this colored jelly base, it does seem to kind of gather around those larger glitters. It's not too gritty to apply, but it did apply a little bit streaky. So I'll go ahead and show you that first coat, let it dry, and then show you how it built up for me with a second coat. So again, here's a look at that second coat. I am kind of going in a little bit thicker with these so I can manipulate around those glitters. 2 thicker coats makes for a nice smoother coverage. I did still have a good amount of that white base showing through though, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry and then show you how it built up for me with my third and final coat. So here's a quick look at that third and final coat. Again, just a nice thick healthy coat here, and just being mindful to make sure that I spread out that base a little bit. It did make for pretty much full coverage with this one, and this is one of my top picks. So here's a quick look at that completed mani with a glossy top coat at an angle in direct sunlight. I really like how those opalescent flakes shine through this red jelly base. This is my final swatch photo at an angle in that direct sunlight. So next up is Dimwit, and this polish is described as an intense green to blue to fuchsia iridescent with scattered tangerine holographic microglitter effects in a super squishy orange jelly glow base. So here's a quick look at that bottle shot. This orange was a little bit maybe less pigmented than the red, so it did end up being a little bit more sheer. I'll also show you how it swatched over a white base today. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and then I'll show you how Dimwit swatched on my natural nail. So here's a look at that first easy coat. This one didn't go on quite as streaky as the red did, so a little bit smoother of an application, just maybe a little bit more sheer. So there's a look at that first coat. I'll let it dry and then show you how it built up for me with a second coat. So again, I am working in a little bit of thicker coats here. I definitely feel like that helps amp up the opacity. If you're one who prefers thinner coats, I definitely do recommend using these more as a topper than as a standalone polish. So here's a quick look at my third and final coat, and this does bring it to pretty much full coverage. I can still see maybe a little bit of that white undie hanging out around the side. That could totally be my application though. So here's a quick look at an angle in that direct sunlight with a glossy top coat, and this is my final swatch photo at an angle under that same sunlight. So next up is Phaedra, and this is described as an intense blue to purple iridescent with scattered holographic micro glitter effects in a super squishy lemon yellow jelly glow base. So this one is very bright, very sunshiny. I love how those opalescents kind of shine through that yellow base as well. Each polish gives a little bit of a different feel. Here's a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Phaedra swatched on my natural nail with one coat of a white undie. So here's a look at that first coat. This one is pretty sheer, as is typical for a yellow polish. It did go on nice and smooth though, not quite as streaky as some of the others, and also made for just a nice even coverage for this first coat. So I'll let that dry and then show you how it built up for me with a second coat. So here's a quick look at that second coat. I am working in thicker coats. I do think that that's going to be necessary for this collection unless you're using it as a topper. So 2 coats really bumps up that color, makes it more vibrant, but I really think that this benefits from a third coat as well. You get all of that juicy depth and tons more of that glitter. So here's a look at a different angle with a glossy top coat in direct sunlight. So this one is super bright, almost neon lemon sunshine yellow, and this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. So next up is Boo, and this polish is described as an intense blue to purple iridescent with scattered lime holographic micro glitter effects in a super squishy lime green jelly glow base. So with this one, you get a ton of that blue shift in those opalescent glitters. Really pretty, especially against this green base. I'll go ahead and show you a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Boo swatched over one coat of a white undie. So this one almost gets a sort of yellow tint on the nail. It's very lime green. It goes on nice and smooth. I didn't have any issues with streaking. Really, it was just a little bit sheer here, so I did end up going for a thicker first coat. So I'll let that dry and then show you how it's swatched with a second coat. Again, I am working with thicker coats here, and that does bump up that opacity as well as adds a ton more of those glitters, but it was still just a little bit sheer for my liking. So again, I'll let that dry and then show you how it applied with a third and final coat. With this third coat, I do really like the depth here. I really like the finish, and I love how those blue opalescent glitters shine through all of these layers. So here's a quick look at an angle with a glossy top coat in direct sunlight, and this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. So next up is Gloria, and she's described as an intense blue to green iridescent with scattered fuchsia holographic micro glitter effects in a super squishy purple grape jelly glow base. So this one in the bottle is absolutely stunning. I did have a little bit of issues with application. It may have been because I got my base a little bit too heavy, but here's a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Gloria swatched on one coat of white polish. So here's a look at that first coat. This one did tend to be maybe a little bit streaky as well. The base does feel maybe a little bit more pigmented, so that may be the issue there. If they're a little bit more opaque, you kind of notice them gathering up around those larger glitters. So here's a quick look at what the second coat looks like, and here's where I think I kind of messed up. I got the base a little bit too wet and didn't give it time to dry, so I got a little bit of an issue there right in the middle of the nail. 2 coats though does add more of pigment and of course more glitter. I'm going to go ahead and let that dry down really well and then show you how it built up for me with that third and final coat. So here's a quick look at that. Again, a nice healthy third coat here, and it did apply maybe just a little bit streaky. I would definitely use this as a topper over a blue or a purple in my personal opinion. Here's a look at that completed mani with a glossy top coat in direct sunlight, and this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight. So lastly today I have Nixie, and this polish is described as an intense multicolored rainbow iridescent with scattered holographic micro glitter effects in a super squishy black jelly glow base. So for this one I'm going to show you how it's swatched over a black base. This is absolutely my top pick of the collection. This one and I think the white one were my favorites. So here's a quick look at that brush shot, and I'll show you how Nixie swatched over one coat of a white. So here's a quick look at that. With just the first swipe, you can see how intense this is as a topper. You get a ton of those glitters, and I really felt like I didn't need to go in for that second coat. So just one coat is beautiful for a topper. Here's a look at a different angle with a glossy top coat in direct sunlight, and this one is just a stunner. No issues about it at all. So this is my final swatch photo at an angle in that same direct sunlight, and that does wrap up my swatch and review of the Firefly collection. These are available right now, and I really appreciate it if you use my affiliate code if you're going to make a purchase, and this is good on any of the polishes in her storefront. Again, it's Sloppy10. If you'd like to see more photos of any of these polishes, I do have those available on my blog at sloppyswatches.com, or you can also follow me on Instagram at sloppyswatches. So thanks so much for watching, guys. See you next time.